Hey everyone, as promised, we're going to talk about bird feeders this time. So, what I had years ago, there's a bay window on my house. Uh, my mother was elderly. She would sit on the couch or lay on the couch and watch a TV, and the bay window was right there. So, I had set up bird feeders outside that bay window so she could watch the birds if she wanted to. Now, the bird feeders that I had then were the normal wooden ones with the clear plastic at an angle so that the feed goes down into these little trays underneath. They were effective, but I have bears. Bears have a tendency to tear apart any bird feeders that they find, and it's kind of hit or miss whether the bears are in the area or not. So anytime that they aren't hibernating, which is most of the year, the feeders are at risk in theory. That said, the feeders would get destroyed, so I decided to do 3D printing with this next set. So I did a couple of things. The feeder structure that I had put together was PVC pipe, right? 3 PVC pipes into the ground, 1.5 inches. The middle one had a T connector on the top, and the 2 side ones have corner connectors. So I've got a cross beam that's supported in 3 places. The feeders would hang off of a metal hook that I put onto that I bent and put over the top pipe, and that's how the feeders would stay in place. Now, if you've seen the feeders with the ropes on them, they can slide, so I created another piece of metal that I bent around so it was at the top, and that would hold the feeder in place so it couldn't slide and tip. Come 2024, and I decided, as my last feeder had been destroyed or grossly damaged, squirrels can do a number on these feeders as well. I decided, what if I were to print them now that I have 3D printers? And there's this little bowl shape like one, and it just takes a couple of hours to print. It's cheap as far as materials are concerned, so if the bear gets to it or something, no big deal. Unlike the other feeders, because it's an open shape though, if the bear were to take an interest in it, all he has to do is knock it down to get the seed. They aren't attached the same way that the other ones were. So here's what I did. I have these bowl-shaped feeders, which are wide open, which the birds have taken to sitting inside while they eat the seed. It's kind of cool. It gives the small birds enough room to hold in, and it gives even the bigger birds something to hang on to, but not as much. So things like blue jays, etc., are less able to get into this feeder. I have one of the more traditionally shaped ones. The one thing I don't like about that one is the fact that you can't see how much seed's in it, really. You put a bright light on it, you can shine through to see where the seed level is. Now that one has a triangular top to it with a shaft that goes all the way down to a T shape at the bottom. That bottom shaft goes into a tray. Then there is a square piece with openings on either side, kind of like you would see in a traditional one of those wooden feeders, except it doesn't V quite as much on the bottom and the tray isn't as big. But anyway, the shaft goes up through that, the T locking that bottom plate in place. You put the square or the rectangular piece over it that you're going to put the seed in, the bin, and then it's got a triangular piece on the top. The shaft comes out of the top, it's got a little hole in it, and that's how you hook it on. So I tried one of those, and again, like I said, I don't like it because I can't see how much feed's in there. But some of the bigger birds do use it easily. And then I've got woodpeckers. Now, woodpeckers have been grabbing onto that feeder and eating off of that, so I have a couple of metal cage suet feeders which I can now replace with 3D, but seeing as I've got a couple of metal ones anyway, I just use those. So those are on chains with a hook on the top. So what I did is on the PVC pipe, and bear in mind I have 19 feeders plus the two metal suet feeders in place. Each feeder has a hook mechanism at the top. Basically what I did is I printed a hook on a half arc that's wide enough to go over the pipe. In that half arc, I put a hole the size of an M3 screw. So the M3 goes through that into the PVC pipe, which prevents it from falling off, which I had to do because of the squirrels. But the feeder just sits on the hook. Now, these bowl feeders have this edge, sides that come up on either side, support that comes up on either side, that goes up to the top that has a circular opening at the top. So you just made the hook the size that that circular opening fits on it. So that's what I've got across the top. Then I have special ones for the suet feeders because they're a hook type. Instead of having a hook, I've just finished that arc off and used the exact same model that I had before, but instead of it being a U shape to it, it's now a circle, so the hooks just go in. Again, attach the PVC pipe. But what I had was not big enough to do the 19 feeders. I could do 9 feeders, but what I did is rather than going and getting T intersections for each of the sides to put another pipe through there and then try to figure out how I was going to attach it to the center, I just built a using the same type of model that I used for the hooks. I put 2 of those together. So instead of having a hook on it, it has a side that slaps into the main pole and that goes into it sideways. And at the top, or on the other side of it, it's got a U shape again. So think of it like what I had before with a bigger hook and turned on its side. By doing that, I can put another PVC pipe across the entire setup without impacting the piping that's already there. So I can leave those pipes in place. I level this off, put it in place, drop the PVC pipe in, screw the whole thing together, again with a little M3. So I'm not talking about a lot of screwing or drilling. I did pre-drill the holes though before I did the screws. And I have another row. On that other row on each side, because remember I got that centerpiece in there to work with, I have 5 feeders. So that gives me 19 feeders that I've got in place to take care of the birds. Again, they're all open, so it allows me to put food in easily. All right, I can just go along and I've got a small cup that I had made originally to put tea bags in, or loose tea, and I would just use those cups to pour the seed in. So that's the layout of the feeders itself. Again, on the ends, I've got the suet feeders with just this, it's a half arch at the top that screws into place that just barely fits over the 1.5 inch pipe, and a little loop that's attached to it that's just a circle that you can put the hook through so that everything is hooked into place. So all of that's in place and set up. However, if you feed birds, you know that there's a lot of birds that like to eat off the ground. They don't want to sit on the feeders. So I wanted to design a ground feeder setup. And what I did was I went back and used the organizers type that we had before, the Gridfinity stuff. So a Gridfinity 7x7 is what I used for the base. And then I made a 7x7 tray to put on the top of it, which I kind of liked and kind of didn't. It's a little large. But what I put it all on is a setup by using a milk crate, a plastic milk crate that I bought from Walmart. They're cheap. Flip it over so that the bottom is now at the top, obviously, and it has the proper sizing at that 7x7 for me to screw the Gridfinity frame in place. Now, to hold the feeder on, I used small magnets. Gridfinity allows you to make not only a screw hole, but to make a hole for the magnets as well, which makes it a little difficult to glue. I wish there was a way with the design that was there to easily take the holes away from certain places to make it easier to put the glue in, because you're gluing, but there's a hole in the middle. But anyway, by putting the magnets in place, now that top tray locks in place, but at the same time, I can easily lift it up if I need to and clean it. But when I got done with that, I thought, well, wait a minute. If I went smaller, right, let me go 5x5 for the tray, then I can make little perches for the outside, which I did, which is in a 1x2 Gridfinity. And it's a simple little arch, if you will. It's just basically 3 squares, or 2 squares with a circular center to it, that you just put the 2 squares on either side as the posts, put your circle, your round cylinder through the middle, and you're done. Use that against your Gridfinity tray that's a 1x2 as a hole, and then you can just slide those into where they need to be, and you've got your hole set up. You expand the piece just a little bit, not much, because you can't just do a ratio expansion on it. And there's your hole, and you just tap the cross piece in. So it makes it pretty easy to put together for that. Again, hooked together with magnets isn't working out quite the way I hoped, because the birds aren't the only things using it. The deer have decided that they like the fact that there's this seed in a very easy to find spot, and have knocked them off. The squirrels knocked them off. Everything knocks them off. I only used 4 magnets on it. The 1mm magnets work best. However, the 2mm magnets are really strong. And so I've got to figure out how I can get a couple of 2s in there. The problem is, obviously, when you use a pair of 2s, because of the sizing, it lifts it up out of the Gridfinity frame just a bit, and I don't really want to do that. So on a redesign for this, I would probably start off by putting a frame on the frame. So going around the outside of my 7x7 with a couple of flat platforms that would take the larger magnets and then connect those to the frame itself from the backside, so that the frame holds that to the milk crate, so it's not going to go anywhere, but it has the magnets, and it can have bigger magnets so that the perches don't get knocked over quite so easily. But again, these are all designs that you come up with as you do it and play and see what you can come up with. But that gives me ground feeders for my ground birds, so that the seed isn't just getting wasted when it rains and just getting pushed into the soil. And I have hanging feeders for all the birds that are not bear-proof, but one, less likely for a bear to break it because they can easily get the seed out of it. So other than an accidental breakage, they're not tearing it apart to get at the seed like they do with the other ones. But 2, if they get destroyed, it's not that big of a deal. I can just print a replacement for it. And again, like I said, I've watched deer and squirrels eat out of these feeders. The feeders are still in one piece. Sometimes they get knocked down, sometimes they don't. So it seems to be working out from that perspective. But again, it's a PVC frame, T connector in the top, so that I can put a pipe down the middle for that added support, curved connectors on the pipes for the two outsides, a custom-made two half circle pieces that go together on each of the pipes to hold that mid pipe across. Each one of the bowl feeders has a half circle hook with a half circle that goes over the pipe itself to hold the hook onto the pipe. And each of the smaller ones has a simple, the suet feeders, has the same type of thing with a full loop on it as opposed to a half circle so that the hook can go through. Now, I did mention the fact that I've got that more traditional bin feeder. Because that's got a hole at the top, I just have a metal wire that goes over the top that goes into that and holds the feeder onto the rest of the rest of the setup. Again, these three pipes can now be put into, which will happen this year, into the ground, and I'll probably put some concrete around it just to hold it in place. Currently, it's under the overhang of my house, which keeps it protected for the birds. I'm going to move it out from the house a little bit and make something that's going to go over it so that the birds still get protected from the weather, but at the same time, it's not quite as close to the house or the bay window, which means they're less likely to fly into the window accidentally or just seeing their reflection. So that's what I did for the main feeders, and the other ones are just Walmart milk crates with a 7x7 grid printed on the top. One has a 7x7 bin, the other has a 5x5 bin. All of that stuff you can get designed in the Gridfinity designer that they've got, and just print them out. Remember to make sure that you've got the grid itself set up with both holes and magnets, and that the bins that you make are set up for the magnets so that you can just lock them into place. Neither of the bins have moved, even though I only have a couple of magnets on each of those. There's only 4 magnets in place, but between the locations of them and the fact that nobody's trying to knock them over, they're working out very well. And again, all this stuff is replaceable. All you have to do is reprint it. The 7x7 stuff takes quite a bit of time. The 5x5 is a little quicker, and it depends on how much sturdiness you want to it. If you really want it to hold up for years and years and years, that's a little bit different. All the stuff I used is PLA for 2 reasons. One, I have PLA. It doesn't have any fumes or anything like that, but I want to see how it holds up. And I got a couple of tests that I'm going to do there. One is it's just raw PLA, and the other is it's PLA, but it's been sprayed with a clear coat. And I want to see if there's a difference in how they hold up. The PLA can be hurt by heat. The actuator covers that I've got, I've spray painted silver to help reflect the sun away from them, just in case they get in the sun. They won't be. They'll be behind the panels. But just to be on the safe side, that's how I've got that set up. So we'll see how the feeders hold up. They'll get they won't get as much environmental impact on them, because what they're going to be in is something that's going to have a roof over it to help protect the setup. And I'm trying to figure out if I want to do a single slant roof or a V roof to see which one's going to work out best for this particular scenario. But I just want to give something for the birds to have a little protection at the same time, move things away from the house a little bit. And that's what I did with the bird feeders using 3D printing. And that's what I got for you guys this week, and I'll talk to you all next week.